Hello and welcome. I am Josie Doucette, the co-director for Capital One City Parks Foundation Summer Stage. And I'm so glad you've joined us for the kickoff of our 2020 season in Summer Stage Anywhere. Summer Stage for the last 30 years has been in all 5 boroughs and parks all over the city. And tonight, we've changed that. We are online. We're starting our digital platform. We're kind of excited about this. This is something new. As New York City's largest free outdoor performing arts festival for over 30 years, presenting live shows in New York City parks. Summer Stage has been a platform and an advocate for artists to say their piece in today's world. As always, we stand in solidarity with those committed to social justice and to deconstructing racism. How can we change and move forward, particularly with what's going on in the world today? Tonight, we begin our summer-long series. I hope you enjoy it and continue to follow us all summer long. I'd like to introduce our host of this evening, my fellow Haitian, the talented Marc Bamuthi Joseph. He will be our host for tonight's performance of The People Speak.
Hey, what's up, good people? Welcome to this special premiere digital performance of The People Speak from Capital One City Parks Foundation's Summer Stage Anywhere in association with Voices of a People's History of the United States. My name is Marc Bamuthi Joseph. I'm the Vice President and Artistic Director of Social Impact at the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. I'm a poet, I'm a choreographer, I'm an artist, I'm a father, and I'm a first-generation American of Haitian descent. I'll be hosting this performance today, and as part of my duties, I have the great honor of kicking us off with one of my own works. This is called Born on Mother's Day, and it's written in service and in response to our growing movement for social equality and justice for Black people in this country. Check it out. In the shadow of mourning, a man runs for pleasure. In 3 weeks' time, a virus will shut down his country, but he doesn't know that yet. He's making his heart work, breaking a sweat because the young man is alive. He's 25. He was born on a Sunday. He's wearing all white because it's fly. He's not going to a ceremony or whatever. His gear is bright as fuck. He has nothing to hide. Running for his health. His country is sick. Symptomatic systemic violence, sadistic bigots, and a complicit network of badges and judges, and a stunning lack of originality. Really, fellas, in Georgia, pickup trucks and rifles and lynching, the crude instruments soothing the cancerous hands, bloody racist trigger fingers itching, a man running for pleasure. American illness killed him while someone was filming. 3 district attorneys reviewed the case. 2 whole months went by and the whole world watched the tape before anybody thought to put his killers in prison. You want to talk about a virus? You want to talk about contagion? You want to talk about something make you want to stay inside because you just might catch it when you step out your own front door on an arbitrary Tuesday, and you alone finding yourself fighting for your life, hear something explode like a raisin in the sun, heart beating at the pace to meet the blood needs of your run, and suddenly realizing that you can't breathe. The disease was inevitable, but the fallout is preventable. We cannot eliminate racism, but could we, America, cure ourselves of racial injustice? Justice for Ahmaud Arbery. In 1937, a Bronx school teacher, Abel Meeropol, saw a gruesome picture of 2 Black teenagers who'd been lynched in Marion, Indiana, and wrote the haunting poem Bitter Fruit. Meeropol published the words to the song in the New York Teacher, but fame for the song came after Meeropol showed it to the extraordinary blues artist and one of my personal heroes, Billie Holiday. Though her record company refused to record the song, she released it through a specialty label under the title Strange Fruit. sung here by Megalyn Echikunwoke. Enjoy.
Southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Pastoral scene of a gallant South, the bulging eyes and a twisted mouth, scent of magnolia, sweet and fresh. Then the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is a fruit for the crow to pluck, for the rain to gather, for the wind to sigh, for the sun to rise, for the tree to dry. Here is a strange and bitter cry.
While some civil rights leaders urged more cautious approaches to gaining civil rights, Malcolm X expressed the feelings of many Black people that more uncompromising methods of struggle were needed. Here's an excerpt of a speech Malcolm X delivered in Detroit, Michigan in 1963, read by Michael Ealy.
We want to have just an off-the-cuff chat between you and me, us. But we want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand. We all agree tonight that America has a very serious problem. Not only does America have a very serious problem, but our people have a very serious problem. America's problem is us. We're her problem. The only reason she has a problem is she doesn't want us here. Once you face this as a fact, then you start plotting a course that will make you appear intelligent instead of unintelligent. What you and I need to do is learn to forget our differences. You don't catch hell because you're a Methodist or Baptist. You don't catch hell because you're a Democrat or a Republican. And you sure don't catch hell because you're an American. Because if you were an American, you wouldn't catch hell. You catch hell because you're a Black man. You catch hell, all of us catch hell for the very same reason. So we're all Black people, so-called Negroes, second-class citizens. You're nothing but an ex-slave. You don't like to be told that, but what else are you? An ex-slave. You didn't come here on the Mayflower. You came here on a slave ship in chains. We have a common enemy. We have this in common. We have a common oppressor, a common exploiter. But once we realize that we have that common enemy, then we unite on the basis of what we have in common. And what we have foremost in common is that enemy, the white man. Now, I know some of y'all don't believe that they are all enemies. Time will tell. Look at the American Revolution in 1776. That revolution was for what? For land. Why did they want the land? Independence. How was it carried out? Bloodshed. You haven't got a revolution that doesn't involve bloodshed, and you're afraid to bleed. I said you're afraid to bleed. As long as the white man sent you to Korea, you bled. He sent you to Germany, you bled. He sent you to fight the Japanese, you bled. You bleed when the white man says bleed, and you bite when the white man says bite, and you bark when that white man says bark. I hate to say this about us, but it's true. How can you justify being nonviolent in Mississippi and Alabama when your churches are being bombed and your little girls are being murdered? If violence is wrong in America, violence is wrong abroad. And if it is right for America to draft us and teach us how to be violent in defense of her, then it is right for you and I to do whatever is necessary to defend our own people.
Here are the words of two of the most powerful voices of the 20th century, the poet Maya Angelou and the artist Nina Simone, performed by Celisse Henderson.
My skin is black, my arms are long, my hair is woolly, my back is strong, strong enough to take the pain inflicted again and again. What do they call me? What do they call me? Pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size, but when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say it's the reach of my arms, it's the span of my hips, it's the stride of my step and the curl of my lips. I am woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. My skin is yellow, my hair is long, between two worlds I do belong. My father was rich and white, he forced my mother late one night. What do they call me? What do they call me? I walk into a room as cool as you please, and to a man the fellas stand and fall to their knees. Then they swarm around me like a hive of honeybees. I say it's the fire in my eyes, it's the flash of my teeth, it's the swing in my waist and the joy of my feet. I am woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. My skin is tan, my hair is fine, my hips in fire, my mouth like wine. Whose little girl am I? Anyone who has money to buy. What do they call me? What do they call me? Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about or have to talk real loud. When you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. I say it's the click of my heels, it's the bend of my hair, it's the palm of my hand, it's the need for care. I am woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman. That's me. My skin is brown, my man is tough. I kill the worst mother I see. My life's been too rough. I'm awful bitter these days because my parents were slaves. What do they call me? What do they call me? What do you call me? Call me. What do they call me? Call me. What do you call me? Call me. Call me. Phenomenal woman, that's me.
Welcome back. The extraordinary writer James Baldwin wrote this public letter read by Ryan Jamaal Swain to Angela Davis on November 19th, 1970.
James Baldwin, an open letter to my sister, Miss Angela Davis, November 19th, 1970. Dear sister, one might have hoped that, by this hour, the very sight of chains on black flesh, or the very sight of chains, would be so intolerable a sight for the American people and so unbearable a memory that they would themselves spontaneously rise up and strike off the manacles. But no. They appear to glory in their chains. Now, more than ever, they appear to measure their safety in chains and corpses. Well, since we live in an age in which silence is not only criminal but suicidal, I have been making as much noise as I can here in Europe, on radio and television. In fact, have just returned from a land, Germany, which was made notorious by the silent majority not so very long ago. I was asked to speak on the case of Miss Angela Davis, and did so. Very probably an exercise in futility, but one must let no opportunity slide. I am something like 20 years older than you, of that generation, therefore of which George Jackson ventures that there are no healthy brothers, none at all. I'm in no way equipped to dispute this speculation, not in any way without descending into what at the moment would be irrelevant subtleties, for I know too well what he means. My own state of health is certainly precarious enough, and considering you and Huey and George, and especially Jonathan Jackson, I begin to apprehend what you may have had in mind when you spoke of the uses to which we could put the experience of the slave. What has happened, it seems to me, and to put it far too simply, is that a whole new generation of people have assessed and absorbed their history, and, in that tremendous action, have freed themselves of it and will never be victims again. When Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali and refused to put on that uniform, a very different impact was made on the people and a very different kind of instruction began. The American triumph, in which the American tragedy has always been implicit, was to make black people despise themselves. When I was little, I despised myself. I did not know any better. And this meant, albeit unconsciously or against my will or in great pain, that I also despised my father and my mother and my brothers and my sisters. Black people were killing each other every Saturday night out on Lenox Avenue when I was growing up, and no one explained to them or to me that it was intended that they should. That they were pinned where they were like animals in order that they should consider themselves no better than animals. Everything supported this sense of reality, nothing denied it, and so one was ready when it came to time to go to work to be treated as a slave. So one was ready when the human terrorists came to bow before a white God and beg Jesus for salvation, the same white God who was unable to raise a finger to do so little as to help you pay your rent, unable to awaken in time to help you save your child. There is always, of course, more to any picture than can speedily be perceived, and in all of this groaning and moaning, watching, calculating, clowning, surviving, and outwitting, some tremendous strength was nevertheless being forged, which is part of our legacy today. But that particular aspect of our journey now begins to be behind us. The secret is out. We are men. But the blunt, open articulation of this secret has frightened the nation to death. I wish I could say to life, but that is much to demand of a disparate collection of displaced people still cowering in their wagon trains and singing "Onward, Christian Soldiers." The nation, if America is a nation, is not in the least prepared for this day. It is a day which the Americans never expected to see, however piously they may declare their belief in progress and democracy. Those words, now on every American's lips, have become a kind of universal obscenity. For this most unhappy people, strong believers in arithmetic never expected to be confronted with the algebra of their history. One way of gauging a nation's health, or of discerning what it really considers to be its interests, or to what extent it can be considered as a nation and distinguished from a coalition of special interests, is to examine those people it elects to represent or protect it. One glance at the American leaders, or figureheads, conveys that America is on the edge of absolute chaos, and also suggests the future to which American interests, if not the bulk of the American people, appear willing to consign the blacks. Indeed, one look at our past conveys that. It is clear that for the bulk of our countrymen, we are all expendable. As long as white Americans take refuge in their whiteness, for so long as they are unable to walk out of this most monstrous of traps, they will allow millions of people to be slaughtered in their name, and will be manipulated into and surrender themselves to what they will think of and justify as a racial war. Only a handful of the millions of people in this vast place are aware that the fate intended for you, Sister Angela, and for George Jackson, for the numberless prisoners in our concentration camps, for what that is what they are, is a fate which is about to engulf them too. White lives for the forces which rule in this country are no more sacred than black ones. As many and many a student is discovering, as the white American corpses in Vietnam prove. If the American people are unable to contend with their elected leaders for the redemption of their own honor and the loves of their own children, we the blacks, the most rejected of the Western children, can expect very little help at their hands, which, after all, is nothing new. What the Americans do not realize is that a war between brothers in the same cities, on the same soil, is not a racial war, but a civil war. But the American delusion is not only that their brothers are all white, but that the whites are all their brothers. We must do what we can do and fortify and save each other. We know that air and water belong to all mankind and not merely to industrialists. We know that a baby does not come out into the world merely to be the instrument of someone else's profit. We know that a democracy does not mean the coercion of all into a deadly and finally wicked mediocrity, but the liberty for all to aspire to the best that is in him or that has ever been. We know that we, the blacks, and not only we, the blacks, have been and are the victims of a system whose only fuel is greed, which only God is profit. We know that the fruits of this system have been ignorance, despair, and death, and we know that the system is doomed because the world can no longer afford it, if indeed it ever could have. And we know that for the perpetuation of this system, we have all been mercilessly brutalized and have been told nothing but lies. Lies about ourselves, about our kinsmen, about our past, about love, life, and death, so that both soul and body have been bound in hell. The enormous revolution in black consciousness, which has occurred in your generation, my dear sister, means the beginning or the end of America. Some of us, white and black, know how great a price has already been paid to bring into existence a new consciousness, a new people, an unprecedented nation. If we know and do nothing, we are worse than the murderers hired in our name. If we know that we must fight for your life as though it were our own, which it is. For if they take you in the morning, they will come for us in the night. Therefore, peace, Brother James.
It's been extraordinary. We conclude our program with one of my favorite poets. This is Staceyann reading Angela Davis's speech to the historic Women's March on Washington, January 21st, 2017. By many accounts, the largest demonstration in United States history.
At a challenging moment in our history, let us remind ourselves that we, the hundreds of thousands, the millions of women, trans people, men, and youth who are here at the Women's March, we represent the powerful forces of change that are determined to prevent the dying cultures of racism and heteropatriarchy from rising again. We recognize that we are collective agents of history and that history cannot be deleted like web pages. We know that we gather this afternoon on indigenous land, and we follow the lead of the first peoples who, despite massive genocidal violence, have never relinquished the struggle for land, water, culture, their people. We especially salute today the Standing Rock Sioux. The freedom struggles of Black people that have shaped the very nature of this country's history cannot be deleted with a sweep of a hand. We cannot be made to forget that Black lives do matter. This is a country anchored in slavery and colonialism, which means, for better or for worse, the very history of the United States is a history of immigration and enslavement. Spreading xenophobia, hurling accusations of murder and rape, and building walls will not erase history. No human being is illegal. The struggle to save the planet, to stop climate change, to guarantee the accessibility of water from the lands of the Standing Rock Sioux to Flint, Michigan, to the West Bank and Gaza. The struggle to save our flora and our fauna, to save the air. This is ground zero of the struggle for social justice. This is a woman's march. And this women's march represents the promise of feminism as against the pernicious powers of state violence. An inclusive and intersectional feminism that calls upon all of us to join the resistance to racism, to Islamophobia, to anti-Semitism, to misogyny, to capitalist exploitation. Yes, we salute the fight for 15. We dedicate ourselves to collective resistance. Resistance to the billionaire mortgage profiteers and gentrifiers. Resistance to the healthcare privateers. Resistance to the attacks on Muslim and on immigrants. Resistance to attacks on disabled people. Resistance to state violence perpetrated by the police and through the prison industrial complex. Resistance to institutional and intimate gender violence, especially against trans women of color. Women's rights are human rights all over the planet. And that is why we say freedom and justice for Palestine. Over the next months and years, we will be called upon to intensify our demands for social justice, to become more militant in our defense of vulnerable populations, those who still defend the supremacy of white, male, heteropatriarchy had better watch out. The next 1,459 days of the Trump administration will be 1,459 days of resistance. Resistance on the ground, resistance in the classrooms, resistance on the job, resistance in our art and in our music. This is just the beginning. And in the words of the inimitable Ella Baker, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening at SummerStage Anywhere for The People Speak in association with Voices of a People's History of the United States. We hope you were moved by the program. We hope you were inspired to learn and to do more. Please visit us at summerstage.org and peopleshistory.us and follow our social channels for updates on all the upcoming programs and additional resources. And join us every Sunday to continue to hear the people speak as we'll offer the stage to voices from around the city and across the planet. Join us, listen, and be heard. Don't forget to hashtag People Speak Sundays and SummerStage Anywhere to add your voice to the conversation. It's been a deep, deep honor to hang with y'all tonight. My name is Marc Bamuthi Joseph. I wish you peace on your journey. Easy.